You've done a million interviews. We've all done a million interviews.
No, I am not. I hate fucking interviews.
Oh, there you go. So, what's up, everybody, and welcome to Drinks with Johnny. I am particularly psyched this week. I love doing this show for these reasons. I was told to interview this guy, Joe, from Lagwagon and RKL. I hadn't heard much about RKL until the last 3 days, and it is so much fun. This is one of the perks of doing this show, is to discover music that, I don't know, I just missed in my childhood. And this band, Rich Kids on LSD, is fucking phenomenal. Joe is a great bassist. I cannot wait to have this conversation. Looks like he's ready to go, so let's start the show.
What's up, dude? It's nice to finally meet you.
Absolutely, man. Like, dude, it's such an honor to be on this side of this conversation with you, man.
No. Let me stop you right there. The pleasure is all on this side of the table.
Oh, man, you're too nice. You're too kind. Well, Joe, it is absolutely awesome to have you on the show here today. I know you a little bit from your time in Lagwagon since 2010. I had no idea. I don't know how this went past me, but Rich Kids on LSD. Vanessa from Fat connected us to do this interview today. Thank you, Vanessa. And just in the last few days, I started discovering RKL. Listened to all 3 records. The new Live in a Dive record coming out is fucking awesome. I don't know how I missed this. I was expecting something a little bit more in the punk Fat Records world, I guess. And I'm listening back to it. Albums like Reactivate. And
yeah, that pile of shit.
I disagree, Joe, man. I think that is fucking so good. I'm listening to it. I'm like, this is like Suicidal and Faith No More. And it's so cool to me to be able to. I was just saying before we hit record to the audience here, it is so cool to do this podcast and discover.
Oh wait. So we're not actually like live yet.
No, we're not live right now. This is recording.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. I thought you were throwing me in all dry hump and shit without no lube or spit.
Oh, right? No, I am. We're recording. It's not. I mean, it's live in that sense. That's recording, but it's not live to an audience.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah, you're just gonna pick these weird things, get people off the, the internet, and then you're gonna make them say shit. Then you're gonna post it later, right?
Exactly. That's the whole idea.
Yeah, you get the sneak preview of everything and get to,
Yeah, well, then I get to pick and choose, and I send it to you before I put it out. I do this with all my guests. And if there's anything,
cool. So guests, don't worry about that. If this goes live, then don't worry about it, man. We're just rolling with it.
Absolutely, man. But like, I don't know how I missed all of this, but just listening to it, I know about your bass playing from as we said, Lagwagon and stuff, which is incredible, but I'm listening to this RKL shit. You're fucking all over the place. It is so good to hear. Like, your bass playing's fucking phenomenal on this stuff, man.
Oh, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. Well, it was pretty much kind of at that time, like, so RKL, I don't know if you're familiar with the early stuff, like Keep Laughing and the EPs and stuff like that. And, it's just pretty much raw punk rock, like a la what was going on back in those days, like Minor Threat and stuff. I mean, right. I listened to RKL like before I joined the band. Like, they were like our favorite band in this band that we were playing in during high school called Wild Style. And we were RKL fans. So everything I wrote for the band and everything everybody else did for the band it was basically an RKL cover band, Right. And so we were totally influenced by them. So I listened to them a lot. But going back to the early stuff, it's like Minor Threat. You can hear like Bad Brains and other like Bad Religion and other like influences in there. But then after Rock and Roll Nightmare, everything pretty much just broke the mold in that band. And I think kind of broke the mold as far as like punk rock and generally, like, especially on the West Coast, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, influencing bands like No Effects, you know what I mean? And all the other bands that were coming out at the time really didn't try to find a sound or whatever. Like basically we turned, or I shouldn't take any credit for that actually, but I should give credit to Bomber and Chris Rest and Barry and especially Bomber for breaking that mold and turning it into like a progressive punk thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. They took elements of like, you know, I would say like English metal, you know, like Iron Maiden and shit like that.
Heard a lot of that.
And also like, you know, blues riffs and rock riffs and just, you know, put it in a blender and put it on frappe, basically.
Yeah.
All as fast as you could possibly can and add like, you know, all these intricacies or whatever you say. So so I'm going to tell you right now that I'm super bad at enunciating.
Enunciating? Well, Fat Mike told me last season on this show that it's enunciating. I know,
and that's why I said it, because I also did my homework and watched the podcast that you did with Fat Mike as well.
Oh, right on.
That's why I said enunciate, but I'm going to enunciate all over the place. So if I don't get things right, then people can just fuck off. Because I hardly graduated high school, let me tell you that. In fact, I got kicked out of high school. I was homeschooled, and then I had to go to a continuation high school.
Oh, man.
And this continuation high school was pretty much like juvie. It was a bunch of derelict little kids that had horrible, you know, lives and no dads and shit like that. It was the best high school I ever went to. Those teachers were the fucking coolest teachers ever. I swear to God.
Dude, that's awesome. That's a way cooler high school experience.
Well, not really, but there wasn't no fucking junior prom. But there were like big Samoan guys like huffing like, you know, liquid paper and Coke cans and stuff. Well, that was cool too.
Well, that's an experience not every high school teenager gets. So that's pretty, I mean, you learned early.
I did. So what was I talking about? I digress.
We started talking about enunciating in high school and barely, I was going to say, you know, bass players kind of have this whole mentality of not being able to enunciate, except for Fat Mike, apparently. But, you know, like.
Yeah, but he's kind of a, like, that guy's, he's fucking crazy. I've never met anybody who could do that many drugs and still be that fucking intelligent.
I wonder, yeah, that's a good point, because I wonder, would he be as intelligent without the drugs? Would he be more intelligent? Would he, you know, I wonder. But I think some of the drugs expand your mind and open up other parts of it, right? I mean, in the name, Rich Kids on LSD, LSD is one of those drugs for me that absolutely opened my mind a little bit more.
Well, as far as being artistic and also, you know, playing music, of course. I mean, I think if you haven't done LSD and you're a musician, you're kind of missing out a little bit. Just saying.
Just saying. I mean, it's not for the kids. Not for the kids at home, everyone. We're talking about, you know, later in your life, experimenting. Well, I mean, I haven't done LSD in many, many years. When's the last time you've dabbled?
I can't do any of it. I can't even smoke pot these days.
Wow.
I used to be a stoner, a huge stoner. Huge part of my life. Like, I mean, huge part of my life from like, I want to say 12 years old to like 26 nonstop, like wake and bake style. Yeah. Like I'd wake up and take a bong rip and go back to bed, like type of high.
Wow.
And I get high before I go to work. I get high while I'm at work and after work and everything else like that. And I loved it. I thought it was great. But at some point, I just didn't make any money.
So that was the deterrent. That was the deterrent.
I was going to the fucking what is it? The check or the check cashing place where you could get an advance on your check, just to buy weed.
Wow. So I had a similar thing through high school, waking up, doing a lot of wake and bake before I went to school. I would actually sell weed just to, not a lot, you know, I'm not like some kind of drug dealer at the time, like a big one or anything, but I'd sell just enough so that I could keep some of it myself, and that's how I supplied myself with marijuana, obviously, and that seemed to work for a while.
Yeah, that's smart, man. And I did the same thing too, and I could say it now freely because you know, pot's legal, but I used to work at Sony PlayStation. I mean, that was my thing when I was juggling playing music. I would go on contracts with Sony PlayStation and be a video game tester. Oh, I mean, wow. I worked at Sega, I worked at Sony PlayStation, I worked at Electronic Arts. I even did like mobile games testing. I mean, I even did it up until like, when did I quit Zynga? Zynga was like 2019.
And Zynga, for everyone at home, Zynga is one of the ones that I've actually used for Words with Friends. Probably about 10 years ago, I started playing Words with Friends. That's Zynga. That was that the last tech company or gaming company you were with?
No. And then after that, how could I forget this? The last gaming company I worked for was for Oculus, for Facebook.
Whoa, that's awesome.
And that was like in 2020.
That's perfect. And so you have an Oculus, obviously. Do you use it for gaming, or what do you use it for?
I had kind of a bad experience over at Facebook, and I'm not going to get into it because, you know, I feel more scared of Facebook than I am of the FBI. But I had a bad experience and I had to quit. It just wasn't the right fit for me at the time, and so I had to let it go. But I really did like working there, and I liked working with Oculus, and I had a huge team of people that I liked. But now I'm actually working for a startup company called Mixtape Social Music.
Okay, what's this all about?
So I was approached by Isaac, and he's the president and founder.
I knew what you meant, Joe.
So president.
President, that's going to be, going back to our initial part of the conversation. That's going to be the quote I pull and put all over social media. The president of the.
Well, president and founder, so it's president.
Yeah, I think you just created a new word in the English dictionary.
Let's just pretend that, and so. And so I was out of Facebook, and we were at a show in Denver, and he approached me and he's like, "Are you doing tech? Are you working, you know, for Facebook anymore? Blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "Fuck that. I'm done with tech." Because when I quit Facebook, I actually started doing construction with my friend. And I've grown up with construction because my dad, he was in concrete for a long time. My brother still does concrete work for a living every day. And he used to put us to work all the time when we were, you know, like 13 or 14. Anyways, I love building and I love construction, and I just love working on stuff. So I did that, and I was perfectly happy doing that until he approached me and he's like, "Well, check this out. I have this startup company, and it's all about music." It's basically, it's not reinventing the wheel so much, but it's such a great idea because what it is, it's a mixtape, right? So you're making playlists in this app, but it's in a social media type of format where it's kind of like a playlist app meets Instagram or Facebook, or TikTok or something like that. Mm-hmm. But you can like share out your mixtapes and people can comment on them, and then you can engage through music and then use it as a platform so you can connect with your fans, or you can connect with like, I don't know, labels, or you can do a lot of stuff with it.
A lot of connection there. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So basically it's a social media app that uses music as its primary, social base, right?
Right. Wow, that's a really cool idea. It's so funny. Just the other day, I was talking to Russ Rakin of Good Riddance on the phone, and we were just talking about how when we were kids, we would listen to our friends' mixtapes, like you're talking about right now, or find a compilation or something like that, and that's how we were discovering a lot of bands. And I think social media has taken over on that. Obviously, that's how people are finding new artists. I mean, you mentioned TikTok. That's a huge thing of how people are finding music these days. Good and bad, I'll say. And it's just, it's a new era. So bringing in playlist or mixtape vibe to it, I think is really cool for the new generation.
I think it is too, because on those other platforms, what you can't do is you can't play a whole bunch of songs in their entirety. You know what I mean?
Right. You only get 30-second clips and stuff, right?
Exactly. So you can give a snippet of like what's going on, but they don't even make it that easy. I mean, Facebook does, but a lot of people don't gravitate to that. More people gravitate to TikTok or Instagram these days, right?
Yeah, well, definitely the younger crowd. I still think there's an older crowd hanging on to Facebook. I don't go there very often anymore, but
right. I mean, I really don't like social media, to tell you the truth.
No, neither do I, man. I use it. I mean, you got to have it. You got to use it for if you're in the entertainment business or an artist or creative in any way, you want to put stuff out. I totally understand that, and it is a way to connect somewhat to your fan base. But sitting there and getting caught, which I still do sometimes, getting caught in the feeds and like realizing halfway through, what the fuck am I doing and why am I looking at my phone? Why do I care about this? I actually don't. And I turn my phone off,
Well, yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, that's the reason why I didn't have a Facebook account for a long time. And basically, I still use my test account that I made for Zynga, because when I got in, it was like around 2010, and they had Farmville and Cityville and Zynga Poker and Mafia Wars and all those other games on the Facebook platform. So I had to make a Facebook account working for them, and I still use the first one that I made for Zynga as my main one. I just kind of switched it over at some point, because I didn't want to make a new one. But anyways, Mixtape Social Music, man, you got to check it out.
I'm going to, yeah, absolutely. Is it already launched? Is it already launched, or are you in beta?
It is, and it's out on iOS. Okay. We've only been out in the App Store for about like three and a half months.
Okay.
And it's already doing pretty well. I mean, most apps that get put out initially in the first month only have about like 500 downloads or so. Okay. Like the benchmark pretty much is that if you put out an app in the first 3 months, if you get like 500 downloads or whatever, you're considered pretty successful. And that's like, I think like 75 to 80% of the apps don't get that. So you're in the upper echelon. We've already surpassed 500 by about like 6 or 7 times in 3 months.
Rad. Oh, that's fantastic. Congrats on that, man. I definitely am going to check that out. And as you're saying those numbers, it kind of reminds me of the podcasting numbers I heard when I started doing this whole thing. I had a professional wrestler, Raven, on here who has a podcast, and he was like, did you know that like if you get 1,000 downloads a week, you're in the top 1% of podcasts because there's so many out there? And I was like, I had no idea. And this was like the second season I'd been doing this. It was pretty early on, and I was
you probably have way more than that now, right?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I mean, absolutely. The fan base, thank you guys at home, has absolutely grown over the last couple of years. And it's been absolutely amazing. And so we're doing better numbers than that now, but it does fluctuate. I'll be honest, like sometimes you get, depending on guests and stuff, we're still in the very early stages of podcasting, and we're just past 100 episodes. So I'm in it for the long haul because I have so much fun. Like it's not a money making kind of thing. It's obviously a passion project where I get to talk to guys like you, and I need more friends is basically what I found out. And this is my way of forcing friendships with other people in the entertainment world.
What's great about it too is I love the fact that we're like, I mean, we're using technology in order to like meet right. up and talk to each other. But it's so great because like we're actually getting all the benefits of the back end on this when other people are just like glued to their phones, right?
Might as well, that's the idea, that for my guests, I like to let the conversation go wherever they want to take it, because you've done a million interviews. We've all done a million interviews.
No, I am not. I hate fucking interviews.
Oh, there you go. So, well, that makes me even more happy that you agreed to be on this one, because hopefully you knew going into it, it's not a fucking interview. It's a conversation between two people.
Well, okay. So here's how it went. So Vanessa asked me, and because now like I'm working for a startup company, I like kind of get it. Yeah. And now I feel that these connections are more important, but that's not the reason why I'm doing it. It's just because I'm just realizing it these days. I mean, everybody in my band has, like Dave Ron has a bunch of followers. Joey Cape has a bunch of followers. Right. People have been telling me all the time for the last 5 years, you need to get an Instagram account. And I'm like, fuck no way. I don't want to be glued to my phone like that. It's like, right. I don't want to hear trolls. I don't want to deal with that stuff. Like, I'm old school. I just want to meet people organically and have real human life interactions, I think that's more important, even though like we are doing this and I feel that it's great, but I really wish that I would have known earlier so I could go and hang out with you at your house.
Well, hey, the great part about this too is the door's always open. I mean, this is the beginning of it. I'd love to have you come back in person, whether or not we record or not. Just come by and have a drink or whatever and hang. That's another part of this. That's why I love this is to be able to create a friendship with somebody. It doesn't always happen, but sometimes it does. And yeah, my door's always open, man.
Cool. That's awesome. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. But I think we're probably getting away from what I guess the purpose is, but I mean, that's podcast, right?
What's the purpose? I don't know what the purpose is.
Well, okay, cool. Well, neither do I. So cheers to that. Okay. So I have a couple of questions for you.
Yeah, man, let's go.
Okay. Are you at your pad right now?
Yeah, I'm at my house.
Man, that is pretty awesome. I gotta say, I wish I had a pad like that. I have a pretty cool place, but it's not like that. So congrats. I love it. I think it's great. I like every little, podcast I was checking out or whatever. I was like, fuck, is that just like a set or is that like, and then I saw some other videos and people were like, tipping the hat. Do you still have the hat or do you have something different?
The hat is gone. We've gone through the Cowboy Tequila hat, which was the worst fucking tequila ever. I'm in search of another bad tequila, but it has to be in a novelty bottle, which those two generally go hand in hand. But I'm looking for some more of that so that when I have, for a while we were kind of forced to do this remotely like we're doing now. And so it didn't really work out, but like now I'm starting to get more people coming over to the house and stuff, which is great. I enjoy that a little bit more. And, I got to get some penalties in there for some of the games we play. So I got to get some really bad liquor. Right now I'm kind of surrounded by good liquor, which is unfortunate because I'm on the wagon for 6 months. So.
Oh, you're on the wagon for 6 months.
Yeah, I needed to take some time off. So.
Well, that's respectable because my next question was going to be, are we going to go wasted on this show or not?
Well, right now I have a protein drink because it's 11 o'clock in the morning and I just finished a workout. Are you drinking though? You got a drink in hand or something near you?
Well, yeah, I was only going to drink if you were going to drink because I still have to work today, but I don't know.
I do have a non-alcoholic beer just in case too, so you didn't feel completely.
Oh shit! All right, can I make one of my signature drinks?
Dude, not only can you make one of your signature drinks, I want you to please show us how to make it and tell us all about it.
Okay. All right. So this one is actually going out to our Lagwagon European crew, which is Alish and Max, and this is their favorite drink on the road. And I even took a couple of months off, like being sober, and I was doing a whole tour totally sober, and I would still hold the bar and make drinks for everybody and make food and stuff like that.
Right.
Because it kind of took my mind off of drinking. I mean, I guess that's ironic, right? Making people drinks and not drinking. But seriously, I was like being a host more than anything else. But this is their favorite drink. And this is like, it could pretty much be anything, but it's called Lil Joes Bitch Pop.
That's a
And
great
I know
name.
that sounds derogatory and stop the PC police, but it's
Oh,
only
God,
with men
we
and
don't
drinking.
allow them here, dude. We don't allow them here. Don't worry.
But check it out. I just wanna say when it's called a bitch pop, only men are drinking it. Okay. When ladies are drinking it, it's just called Lil Joe's pop. But
Okay.
all right.
So what goes into this drink?
Okay. First of all, we have ice, of course, and then we have some top shelf. Oh wait, let me take this filter off because we're not even.
I do love the filter though. That background's pretty rad.
Well, it's Danny Sykes.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you heard what's going on with him, but he doesn't have much time to live. He has a terminal disease.
Oh, I did not know that. Oh.
Yeah. If you watch Fat Mike's podcast with Danny Sykes, then you'll get the lowdown.
I have to go back. I'm a few behind on Fat Mike. It's a great podcast, but I'm a few behind.
Yeah, I just don't want to go into it now just because.
Understood, man.
All right. So let me take this off. So I'll take it off. All right.
Oh, that's where you're really at, huh?
Yes.
I love the Halloween and Jason mask. I love it.
Yeah, thanks, man. That's all my girlfriend. You know, I got her these for her birthday, and I think one for Christmas too, because I love horror, and she loves horror too.
Yeah.
So I thought it was great. But these guys are mainstays at the house. So
It's fantastic. Does she ever make you wear them?
no, these are real animatronic. Like
They're not just like a display for the masks. Okay.
No.
They're do they do anything after you make this drink? Can you show me what they do?
yeah,
Awesome.
I will.
So we got
All right,
Tito's.
so-
We got ice and Tito's.
So we got Tito's. And I don't know why it has a sweater because who likes warm vodka, right? So we pour a little bit in, you know, like getting close to that.
Yeah.
But it has ice. And then we throw some pineapple juice in here. But be free to, you know, express yourself and put whatever. It's kind of a tropical drink, but
Okay.
a little bit natural too. I mean, you know, because we add cranberry
Okay.
on top of that,
Pineapple and cranberry. Okay. I'm liking it.
because we get that tequila sunrise type of look there.
Right.
And then we get some blueberry juice.
Blueberry juice. Now that's one I've never used in a drink before.
Oh yeah, it's great because it has such a different flavor. It's really tart and also adds a little bit of color too. It's kind of like sangria or something.
Yeah, man. No, that's brilliant. I can't wait to try something with that in it. Maybe this drink. Maybe it'll be my first drink in November. Is that the
Okay, and
November
then
drink?
I'm gonna splash of lime.
Yep.
This is a rough lime. Oh, jeez. It's
You
trying to squeeze almond milk out of an almond. All right, here we go. Little splash on top, and then you know, like maybe garnish a little bit.
What do you use for a garnish?
I put a cherry in there,
Nice.
and then a little strawberry.
Beautiful. Oh, look at that drink. Everything about that. Dude, Lil Joes, bitch pop. I love it. And how'd it go down?
Strong. I need a spoon.
I love it. Just for that, I'm gonna crack this
The beer?
here. I'm gonna crack this beer. Cheers, brother. Thanks for being on here, and thanks for sharing that drink. Not every guest does that. I appreciate that.
Yep, no problem. And you can, you know, you can do whatever you want. You put your favorite juices in there and mixtures and stuff like that. Basically, if you just have vodka and any assortment of fruit juices and a lime, the lime is the kicker.
Yeah.
You have to put that at the very top, and then you can make it as strong as you want.
Oh yeah, because that'll cut a little bit of everything, right?
Yeah, and if you even want to get like tartar,
Tartar.
throw-
You can put some little
Tartar.
tartar sauce on it.
yeah, put some tartar sauce in there. Exactly. Some tartar. with, put some tart cherry juice on top too.
Ooh, that sounds good. That sounds really. That's a great drink. Where did this concoction start? Was it on the road then, or
it was on the road because basically we had vodka and then just like all the leftover fruit juices that you have. Mm-hmm. So we just started concocting a bunch of stuff, and then it just eventually came to like something like this, where the base was basically like some kind of tropical juice. Really, it's like you could use the multivitamin, the multi-wit.
Oh, yeah.
In Germany and Europe, they always have the multi-wit.
Yeah. I know. I could picture the bottle there, yeah.
Yeah, the multivitamin, and then that's usually the base in Europe.
Okay. Now, where are some of your favorite places to play or just hang out in Europe? Because I know I get that question all the time from people who aren't in the industry, who don't like tour a lot. They're like, "Oh, what's your favorite place to go and visit?" I'm like, "Man, I don't know." Like,
I think
tough.
The places are easier to choose than the actual venues, because venues change all the time from year to year, and
they all become a blur too, right?
Kind of a little bit. I mean, I know which ones I like to play and have fun at, but they're not necessarily like the best venues. I mean, I like to play like the SO36 in Berlin, but that place is horrible to play because it's hot and it's just full of smoke and it sucks, but the crowd's always great, Yeah. But one of my favorite cities is Berlin. That's probably number one, Berlin.
Very cool.
Second is Barcelona, Spain.
Yep, love Barcelona.
And then the third is Amsterdam.
I love me some Amsterdam, man. I mean, well, this is gonna be a perfect segue here in a second, but my birthday in November, we've typically been out and when we're on an album cycle through the fall in Europe. And my wonderful, wonderful booking agent, Ryan Harlacher over at CAA, seems to always make sure that we have a couple days off right around my birthday in Amsterdam. Thank you, Ryan. I always appreciate that because we have an absolute great time out there. And going back to that segue, it's really not a segue if you say it's a segue, by the way. But anyways, Live in a Dive. Let's talk about the new RKL live record you guys are putting out. You guys did that in Holland, right?
I thought you wanted to see these guys act.
Oh yeah, let's get to that. Yeah, we'll come back to let's get to the important stuff. I want to see your animatronics. We don't need to talk about your music or anything on this music
fuck
podcast.
That, man. I mean, it's just fucking music.
Fuck
Music's
it.
Boring.
It really can be sometimes.
All right, let's see. These guys should be on. There we go. There's one. I gotta press a button on this one.
Oh, dude, Jason's going crazy over there.
There we go.
Nice. I'm trying to hear. Is it playing John Carpenter's?
Yeah, it's playing both like theme musics at the same time for each music or each movie.
Yeah. It's a good mix. It's a good mix going on right there.
It's a good mashup.
Those things are awesome. So speaking on horror movies, what's your favorite? I mean, is it Mike Myers? Is it Jason? Is it Freddy? Is it somebody else?
It's really hard to choose actually, because there's so many good ones. I mean, yeah, I really can't choose.
Man, I agree that it's a hard one, but out of the major ones to come out of, let's say, from the 70s, 80s, early 90s, I'm still a Freddy guy. And strictly because after the first Nightmare on Elm Street, every time he made a kill, it was the most awesome evil dad pun of all time. And I love mixing horror and comedy. It's so good to me.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really good one too. And they had so many sequels back then as well. I mean, they always did, but I felt like Freddie, there was probably one like every year or something like that. Like
Right.
I remember, there wasn't any kind of space in years where there, were in others. Yeah, let me think about that one, and then I'll get back to you.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that. Do you often get out to the movie theaters on the road? I know for me a lot, especially in the Midwest. Back in the day, not being in a bus, but back in the day being in a van, you'd find a mall, something like that, with air conditioning and a movie theater. Did you guys ever get into any of that on the road?
Yeah, of course. Actually, Joey really likes to do that a lot. I mean, he always looks for a theater or wants to be like parked near a mall whenever we have days off and stuff like that. And so, yeah, we've gone to the movies. I've probably gone to the movies more with the Lagwagon as of late than any other band that I've been in, because all the other bands that I played in, like we toured in vans pretty much the whole time.
Yeah.
So, and it's kind of hard. It's like you just get to wherever you're going and just move on to the next. So there's really no kind of days off, which really sucks, but that's the way it is.
No, yeah. I mean, that's the grind. I mean, that's a part of it. Trailer on the back of an Econo van is just the way it was for a long, long time. And to be honest, I still look back on those memories very fondly. I mean, I couldn't do it at this age, maybe, I don't know, but like as a kid, that was so much fun. Those were my college years. We talked about school earlier. I dropped out of high school to join the band that I'm in. You went off to a continuation school, so we weren't exactly going to continue in those footsteps of education. So I think we got our education on the road. No,
we did. In fact, when I was at the continuation high school, the first tour that I ever did with RKL, and it's going to be a segue because I'm saying it's a segue.
Love it.
Is when I was 17 and I was still in high school and I was supposed to graduate that year, and I went on the 5-year plan because of the first time that I toured with RKL, and I was 17 years old. I wasn't even an adult yet.
Yeah.
And my parents were not going to let me go. I mean, who's going to let their 17-year-old son go off touring in a band in Europe, not even any place that's not even on the continent.
Oh, sure.
And touring this band called Rich Kids on LSD on top of everything else. I mean, fuck,
Yeah.
They were not having it. And I was like, well, I can't do the tour. And then I talked to my high school principal, really fucking cool guy. That's why I want to go back and say, thanks to everybody at Peninsula High School, because all the teachers were great. They were so supportive of all these kids who just totally fucked off and had horrible lives and became the parents, and mentors of these kids, or tried to, That's commendable. And it's commendable to all the teachers that are out there in the world doing this because you love to do it and you want to help the kids,
Yeah.
They are our future. Anyways, I went to Doc and I told him, I'm like, hey, Doc, my parents aren't going to let me do this. And, I just need someone to maybe help influence. I don't know if it's going to work or not. Will you just call them and talk to them? I mean, if you're up to it. He was like, this is the best experience you're ever going to get. It's way better than going to this shitty high school. It's way better than going to any high school. It's going to be the best thing that ever happened to you. People don't ever get to go to another state, let alone go to Europe. And he's like, yeah, I'll talk to him. And he called my parents and talked to them for an hour and a half. And then after that, they let me go.
Wow.
On one stipulation, though.
What was the stipulation? You're not allowed to do acid?
No, that wasn't.
No, that was okay.
That was okay. That was totally okay. Actually, my parents are totally old school. I mean, they come from the Azore Islands in Portugal, and they were born poor.
Okay.
They were American immigrants, and so they didn't know anything about that, man. My dad was just doing 12 hours a day, fucking slugging concrete all day, and my mom was just doing daycare at home, and and she didn't even really know how to speak English. So my parents didn't know what acid was.
Wow. So you could get away with it that way. So if it wasn't getting away with doing LSD with the rest of the rich kids, what was the stipulation?
Oh, that Barry Ward, the guitar player, one of our guitar players.
Right.
He was the oldest guy in the band at that point. I think he was like 21 or something like that. But we figured it would be smarter for him to do it because he's the older guy. He became the power of an attorney. So he became my legal guardian. So he had to come down. We had to get a contract notarized and stuff like that. So he became my guardian while I was over there.
Wow. That's almost more trusting than letting you go on tour. I mean, I don't see the logic there.
For some reason, I think it made them more comfortable if they had someone to blame it on.
That's amazing.
If something happened to me or something,
Yeah. So let's go real quick. You talked about a little bit of your upbringing. Where did you grow up? Santa Barbara area, right? Where RKL, or where'd you guys grow up at?
I grew up in San Mateo in Northern California.
Okay.
It's pretty close to San Francisco. And yeah, man, it's just like basically back then it was just a suburb of San Francisco, and there's not a lot going on. I mean, it was very populated and stuff like that. It's just basically a skate punk, and learned about punk rock through skateboarding,
Right.
and just like, and started listening to it. And then my brother always played guitar. He's a metal dude, and, like rock. And he had been in a bunch of like local bands, and he's basically the person that I kind of idolized as far as like playing music, And then I don't know if you know this, but I grew up with Dave Ron. Dave Ron from Lagwagon lived just 2 blocks away from me growing up.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
We went to the same elementary school, and he's the first drummer I ever played with, ever.
Wow. That's incredible. No, I didn't know that at all, because obviously you didn't join till later in the band with Lagwagon. So what was that? I mean, did you guys obviously remain friends since elementary school? Like, that's incredible to have a friend from elementary school. That's I think that's kind of rare.
And not only that, but play in a band and tour around the world with them,
Right. That's fucking awesome.
It's kind of insane.
Dude, speaking of touring the world together, though, like a lot of these tours we're talking about is kind of revolving around Europe. I know RKL seemed to have like quite a huge following over in Europe through the late 80s, early 90s, right?
We did, but we didn't always. The first tour that I did with my legal guardian, we like, it was rough, dude. We played slots and we didn't get paid, and we were struggling, And this is like a 3 week, or not 3 weeks, but 3 month van tour
in Europe. 3 months in a van in Europe.
Yeah, and this is before ice was invented in Europe.
Yeah, we got the tail end of that. My first tour in Europe, the ice was just making its comeback or come out, whatever.
But they just learned how to make it.
Yeah, dude, insane.
They didn't get the recipe for some reason. I don't know why.
I don't know what the fuck is wrong with that. Like, I never understood that. I was 18 years old traveling in Europe, and probably, like 10 years after you had done it, there still wasn't ice then, man. It was crazy. It was very hard to find ice. Yeah,
and it was hard to find still water too, because everything had bubbles in it.
Yeah, and being from California, I mean, we didn't have that shit growing up.
I mean, I've grown to like it a lot. I mean, I really do, and I think it's more popular these days, obviously.
Right. With like LaCroix and stuff like that you could get everywhere.
Exactly, Topo Chico and the likes. Mm-hmm. But back then we'd call it Z-bubbleizing, because we were like shaking the bottles, trying to get the bubbles out, and then let it go and fizz and fizz and fizz. And one German dude walked in, he's like, "What are you doing with this water right here now?"
Yeah.
We're like, we're taking the bubbles out. Like we don't want, like we just want to drink it. We don't want it to foam in our mouth and go, all over our face. It's like, oh, the bubbleizing, yeah.
I love the accent you got there, Joe. That's perfect.
I've been there for a long time. Anyways, yeah, man, it wasn't easy touring back in those days. It was fucking tough. But luckily, we were all young, so we really didn't give a shit. I mean, we were so stupid. We paid to get all our gear shipped over there.
Wow. I mean, what kind of gear? Like, what? I mean, like, what kind of gear?
Oh, it was all fucking shitty gear. It was like a fucking PV cabinet and like some old like high watt head or something like that.
Something you could have easily rented. Something you could have easily rented right over there, right?
We didn't even know. We didn't know. I mean, Chris had his JMP and his old school Marshall cabinet, and I get that, but I had the shit. I think I had a Randall solid state bass head that was like the one that RKO used for a long time. A PV cabinet. We even shipped that over there, and I was like, I don't know. We didn't know, like we thought we'd go over there and we'd had to play out of, I don't know, old transistor radios or something. We didn't know what that was going on, But yeah, we shipped all of our stuff there. But yeah, man, it was pretty rough. We played lots of squats, ate lots of squat slop, probably got squat rot.
Well, that's the thing. You've probably got an iron stomach at this point from all the touring, right? I mean, it just all the food that you go through, being it high end, low end, whatever. After going through that, you get a pretty strong stomach, right?
Yeah, you do. It's pretty iron. I mean, you get an iron everything. You get an iron liver. You get an iron lung.
An iron lung. It's in the trailer in the back.
Exactly. So, yeah, and really there wasn't like a punk rock circuit too. It's like, I think in the early days, we mostly played squats. Mm-hmm. And that was probably 75% of all our shows that we did on that first tour. And then during the end, it just, the word got out. And it suddenly there was just this crazy buzz before social media or anything else like that. Punk rockers were just telling other people, you got to go see these guys. They're fucking awesome. So we do which is crazy in these days, the same markets again later on in the tour. Mm-hmm. And when we go back to some of the places, there'd be more people and more people and more people. And then when we got to just about the breaking point, I think Dave Pollock. Do you know Dave Pollock from Destiny?
I don't. I haven't had the pleasure. I know of him, but I've never met him.
Yeah. Anyways, he was the one who did our first tour over there, and after 3 months, he's like, "Dude, we're doing great. You guys are about to make a profit now."
Wow, and that's a huge thing right there, man. That's nothing to sneeze at when you first get those envelopes with cash in them, man. It's a big,
exactly. We never got them, but we never got them at RKL. No, there were no envelopes.
Okay.
You were lucky if you got a Happy Meal. But
yeah, absolutely. Golden Arches on the road, man. I talked to all my friends in the industry about those. When you saw them, you knew there was a value meal on the horizon. You were pretty excited.
Yeah. Back in those days, we were pretty much kind of, combing couches and shit like that, and looking on the floors and constantly gazing on the sidewalk when you're walking around, hoping that you'd find something. Yeah. We never steal or do any kind of bullshit like that, but right. When it came down to it, we were hurting. So for me, I was just calling my parents for money orders and stuff like that. Or was it traveler's checks?
Shit, man. Yeah, traveler's checks. I didn't have the pleasure of dealing with those. I had a debit card because I worked as a host at a restaurant when I wasn't on tour. So I had a few bucks living at home. But It was that and prepaid cards at the payphones and stuff, which payphones don't even exist anymore.
So you're a young buck.
I'm a little younger. Yeah, I'm a young buck. I don't look it anymore, but I'm a little bit of a young buck.
I don't mean that in a bad way.
Oh, no. Hey, no offense taken on that.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I was 17, so it's like, that was pretty young when I was out on the road too. So I mean, that was a long time ago. That's more than like 30 fucking years ago, 30 plus.
Well, I mean, crazy. Yeah, that's when the tour started, and then you guys were starting to gain popularity in Europe, and by '93 is when all these recordings were made for Live in a Dive, right?
Did you say 93?
Yeah, I believe that's what.
No. It was actually 89.
It was 89 for those. Okay.
It was 89. So our first live recording was in 88, and so at the tail end when we were gonna get those, promised envelopes or whatever. David said, look, he had Destiny Records back then, and he put out a few like punk rock records of his own and a bunch of other bands. And he's like, I want to do a live record of you guys now because it sounds so much better right now live than it does on the recorded Rock and Roll Nightmare. And we were mostly playing all those songs off Rock and Roll Nightmare on that tour. And so he's like, I'll just put my own money up. You guys don't have to do a thing. I'll pay for a truck recording rig and everything else like that. And we were just like, okay, cool, no problem. So we recorded that towards the end of that tour. And then after that got recorded, people started buying that up, and then it like really blew up in Europe. I don't know if it got really big in the US. I know a lot of people actually bought that record here, but I don't think it did as well here than it did in Europe. In Europe, it blew up. So when we went back in '89, it was a totally different deal now. Okay. It was like mostly like 75% real clubs now. And the rest were like all these squats, but only the bigger ones that were like super cool and had their shit together like a real venue, Right. It wasn't like in the basement of this decrepit building where it had water and leaks in it and shit. Right. And you were getting zapped on the microphone every time you went to go sing.
Oh, God, that's so fucking painful. It's just not painful, it's just stinging and annoying. You're just like, fuck, man. Hate when that shit happened.
Yeah,
I digress. So you're back in. Yeah. So now you're playing like 75% clubs, and you continue the story, please.
Yeah, 25% like squats, but only the big ones, and we came back with a vengeance, and it was pretty awesome. Like you could say that we were successful because I heard that a bunch of bands. This is hearsay, by the way. I don't know, maybe you can confirm if you interview these guys later on or something, that like, Bad Religion and NoFX and other bands that didn't really break Europe, when they were coming at that time, they were like, holy shit, RKL is huge here. They're like, fuck, everybody fucking loves RKL. So that's when we recorded that album, or not that album, but that recording in Live in a Dive was just some random recording at the board at this place in the Netherlands, and it just resurfaced out of the blue.
Wow! So it just out of the blue, you say? So, I mean, literally, it surfaced, and you realized it, and now you're putting it together to release as an album, or I mean,
Yeah. So
where were those recordings though? Like who brought them to you guys, or did you have them like in a vault somewhere for all these years?
We did not. I think. Okay, this is what I speculate, and I need to ask Barry. But I think Barry was holding on to this recording for a while, or maybe he knew that it existed, or maybe he got the tapes. I don't know the real story, but I think he. And I don't know how it surfaced, so I couldn't really tell you that. No, I'm sorry about that.
All good.
But I know it came from Barry because he actually had the recording and put it on YouTube, as he has been doing lately, finding stuff from RKL and going through his archives, because he's like one of those, collector guys, a bunch of records and tapes and everything else like that. So I think every time he goes through it, finds something, he kind of tries to mix it a little bit, make it sound good, and then put it up. Because I believe it was up on YouTube until I guess it was Fat Mike and Fat wanted to put it out as a Live in the Dive. So we took those, we remixed it, made it sound a lot better, and then Mike was just cool enough to have it be part of the Live in the Dive series, and I got to thank him for it. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, man, I was listening to it. Vanessa sent me some of it. Obviously, it's not released yet. I believe it. Do you know the release date? Is it next month sometime or the end of this month?
It's June 3rd.
June 3rd, so right around the corner. Everyone's got to go check it out. It's out now. By the time this episode's out, it's out now, so go check it out. I was listening to it, and man, it's raw. It's great. There's some of the parts in it that reminded me. You talked a little bit about the metal influence that was in there too. Like obviously, there's the punk rock stuff that you already mentioned, but like the Maiden, the Motorhead, I kind of heard in there. It was. And just the playability, like what you guys are playing, and blew my mind. Honestly, I was like, this is like the end of the '80s, and like for specifically on the bass, like you're fucking shredding the entire time. I'm like, that's not easy to do and sound good on a live record. As you said, what equipment were you using? Are you predominantly like a pick player or a finger player? Because I was trying to figure it out by listening. I was like, sometimes it sounds like he's using his fingers, sometimes it sounds like he's using a pick. I can't figure it out.
Oh man, I'm so embarrassed to tell you what gear I played back then. But please, I need to tell you that I was 17, and when I joined RKL, I had only been playing the bass for a year.
Okay, so on these recordings specifically, at this point, how long had you been playing the bass?
2.5 years.
And you're shredding like that after 2.5 years?
I wouldn't say I was shredding.
I would, man. I'm listening to it going, man, this is really, really good bass playing. Like, I was floored.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate that. I think I did better the year before. Only reason why is because in '89, when we started the tour, I broke my finger skateboarding. So I did this tour with a broken finger, healing a broken finger.
So you have a broken finger. You're about to tell me the embarrassing equipment you're playing on. I'm 37 years old, just discovering this and getting blown away by your playing. Now I'm feeling more and more like a hack in my field.
You are no hack. I've heard your stuff. You are no hack. You're definitely on ball and on game, and incredible player yourself.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, but it was a rough time for me because I was getting through healing that, and it wasn't broken. It was fractured. Right. So it wasn't as bad. It wasn't like, a compound break or something like that, or, where it just blew apart. But it was and I don't know the name of fingers, but it was this finger.
The ring finger? I think that.
Ring finger. Yeah. Ring finger. It was a ring finger. Yeah, that's the piggy that went to market.
Yeah.
But I'd broken that one. So I was actually able to get around using my pinky more on riffs and stuff. And so I would do these for half, and I would do these for whole.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it totally does, yeah.
And then I would have to heat it up before I played and ice it afterwards.
Okay.
How
did you ice it in Europe?
Had to be very, very, very cold water. Yeah, exactly. But my gear was sorry for that.
No, it's all good.
Notifications, but my gear was a Steinberger copy Honer bass.
A Honer. I have not heard or seen that logo on a headstock in many years. A Honer.
Well, no, it wasn't on the headstock because that's a Steinberger copy. It doesn't have a stock.
It's just getting better. It's getting better.
and I don't know what fucking year, but I think it's like early 80s, 81 Randall solid state bass head.
Okay.
And a PV 4x12 bass cabinet, no horn.
No horn. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's just funny. The Randall head, solid state. I think that's actually it's got a great tone, especially for the time. Especially if you were doing metal or something like that. Like a lot.
Well, it's got a very mid-range tone.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
And then because I was playing a Steinberger style bass, licensed by Steinberger. Let's say that.
Licensed.
It's not a real Steinberger. It has a logo on it, but it's licensed by so.
Yeah.
It's like a Steinberger. I think both of those together kind of gives it like such a warm, like mid-range type of tone that it actually cuts through. Doesn't have a lot of bottom end, no body. I mean, literally no body. But I think it was good. It worked at the time just because it just kind of cut.
Yeah, I mean, it takes front and center in the mix. I will say, like, it's because it's cutting through because of how all over the neck you are. It's very melodic the way that you're playing it too. It's like I said, it takes front and center on this Live in a Dive, in my opinion, on the mix.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know, man. It just works.
Maybe that's just my bass player ear, and I always just like listen to the bass player in the band. I'm like,
Well, I always do too. I mean, it always gravitates to it. Right. A lot of times when you hear a bunch of recordings these days, it kind of gets buried a little, right? Like, right. And I don't really like that. Like, I like it when the bass is up front and center, but it's played smart. You know what I mean? Very intelligently, like where, it's not stomping on anything because it's just not getting in the way of anything.
Right.
And that way you can pump up the bass like really loud. And these days, I mean, people are like mostly playing music through their phones or their little, speaker boxes or their devices, right?
Right.
So I think you need to pump it up even more now.
To even hear it, yeah, because you're losing the low end part of it anyway, And
a lot of people who are are mixing, they're kind of like stuck in their old ways where they're thinking everybody's going to listen to it as on some kind of hi-fi system or something. And I think it's smart to mix for everything, right?
Right.
But it's probably even smarter to just kind of mix for the lo-fi sound. Isn't that fucking weird? How it's like with all this technology, we're just getting back to transistor radios, basically.
Well, hopefully people are at least throwing the headphones on, I've seen a little bit more of that. So, I mean, and the headphones are getting better, even just the pods. I mean, the first generation of the pods didn't have very much low end either, but they're starting to get there. I think there's a few that I like now. The Bose pods are pretty good.
Yeah, I think they're getting better too. The technology is. But when you listen to a band for the first time and you're kind of checking it out, like immediately, what do you listen to it on?
For me, I do listen to it on my AirPods.
Okay.
So I mean, like the AirPods Pro, they're a little bit better. They're still not 100%. You know what I've noticed though? I don't know if you have those. I hate this, and I don't know how to turn it off. When I move my head one way or the other, it's like a surround sound kind of thing happening, and I'm like, dude, I'm on a jog listening to music right now. I want it in stereo. I don't need it with this 360 thing going on.
Yeah, I don't use those at all. I use these really kind of cheap ones, but I like them a lot. They're called Taros, and they're horrible, but they're good. Like, it's weird.
Wait, how are they horrible but good? Explain yourself a little bit more here, Jay.
Well, so I don't like shit with a lot of bass. I just don't. I like hearing music in my ears, just a complete flat response. across the board.
Okay.
I don't want no extra boost. I don't want
okay, I see what you
else.
mean. Yeah.
Like beats, I hate beats. That's
No,
why I use bows, because bows, like my bows, I can mix on. I could use them for, noise canceling. I can use them for everything. And they're always totally flat.
Right.
And I just love the sound of them, and that I feel that that's the perfect way to mix. I mean, if you're using like a bass boost or whatever, and I get it, if you're listening to hip hop and stuff like that, that's a little bit different, especially if you want to get like all the sound of the 808.
Right. Yeah, especially in a headphone. If you're going to put it in a headphones, you're going to need to get that because, to your point, I mean, you don't have a subwoofer to get that frequency, right? So you got to get it.
What happens? It starts distorting inside your, headphones, and that's where, Beats by Dre are able to handle that. But like for listening to like punk rock and bands that are very organic without that type of, I guess, synthesizer manipulation or whatever. I like to listen to it just flat across the board.
I agree. I tend to do that as well. That's the way to listen, I think. But going back to your playing, only 2.5 years in doing this recording, sounds fucking awesome. All the records that you guys put out with RKL. I want to get back to my question of: are you playing with predominantly finger picking or using a guitar pick?
On this specific recording.
Specific recording and just in general. What are you doing?
So I play with both, and back then I was playing. And I was, getting into slapping at that point too, because, basically Bomber was my bass teacher at that point. I think that's why I excelled so fast in such a short amount of time, because Bomber not only played the drums on Rock and Roll Nightmare, but he played the bass too. And he also played like, some of the guitars and stuff like that too. But he basically wrote all the songs. I mean, everybody else participated, but he wrote the lion's share of it, right? So when I first joined the band, he was my bass teacher, and I think that's why I excelled, all right? But at that point, like, we were getting into slapping and getting into finger picking and a whole bunch of stuff like that. So I would say probably about 90% of the time on that recording, I was playing with a pick.
Okay.
And then the rest, the 10%, with my fingers. And that's only for like really soft parts and segues and things like that.
Okay. So, and that makes sense, because some of it I was hearing, and it was just by like playability, and some of it, like a couple of times it would come up, it was kind of like a sweeping line. I was like, okay, that's got to be a pick. There's no way he's doing that with finger picking, and if he is, I'm gonna shoot myself. And then, but it begged the question for me too. Like you just credited Bomber on your teaching there. Did you have any music? What was your music background before that? You mentioned your brother was a guitar player. Was the bass the first instrument you picked up, or were you picking up the guitar with your brother? What was your music background as a kid?
So my brother always played guitar, older brother, 4 years older than me. And I always wanted to be like him. He was like my idol, right? And everything. And then he bought his first guitar and amp, and he started playing. And I was like, Mom and Dad, I want a guitar. So they bought me a cheap acoustic from Montgomery Ward's.
Montgomery Ward, shout out. That's an old one, buddy.
Yeah, you thank me for that.
I did. You just gave me a throwback. My oldest brother worked for Montgomery Ward's here in Huntington Beach. I love that department store.
Fucking Monkey Wards, dude.
Monkey Wards, yes. Even remembering the nickname, I love it.
Monkey Wards, yeah. So it was a Monkey Wards acoustic, totally shitty. But I was like my sister was older, my brother was older. He'd go out with his BMX friends and shit. And this is before I started skateboarding. Mm-hmm. He had a skateboard too. So I'd steal a skateboard and I'd skate around when he was BMXing, come back and make sure that it was, in the same spot. And then I would just, wait for those guys to come back and just fool around with the guitar. And then my brother was nice enough to, teach me some stuff and some chords and this and that. And so that just like basically, gave me my earliest musical abilities that I can, actually play chords, finger pick, shit like that. And then when I got into playing like power chords and stuff, I didn't have an electric guitar. So I'd have to steal his electric guitar and then make sure I put it back. So everything that I was using, his bike, the skateboard, it's like he had a paper route and I didn't have shit. So I had to take everything that he had and then make sure it was like put back.
Yeah, so he wasn't. So you're basically describing like me and my older brothers. Like they weren't cool with you borrowing that shit. Or he wasn't cool.
Fuck no, I got pummeled all the time.
Joe, you and I are gonna get along just fine.
That's how I learned how to fight too. Are you kidding me?
Absolutely, yeah. I got two older brothers. And
well,
yeah.
You know how to fight better than me then.
I don't know. I know I could take a punch. I know that much.
Oh, me too. Yeah, but most of the time, like my parents would break it up or whatever if it got too gnarly.
Right.
But anyways, yeah, man. So, but he was really nice enough to teach me some stuff, And then when I got to like playing power chords and playing more aggressive music like AC/DC and Smoke on the Water and shit like that, I was like, okay, cool, I can play now. And then since Dave and I were still friends and we were in middle school at this point, I believe. Middle school? No, we were still in elementary school, I think. Oh. He's like, dude, my dad just bought me a kick drum and a snare and a hi-hat. It's like, you need to come over here and jam. And I'm like, I don't have any equipment. So I don't know if it was both of our ideas or if it was just my idea, but I think it was like both of ours. He's like, dude, you like Manny's BMX biking, dude, you should take the shit over on the skateboard and bring it over here and then bring it back. So that's what I started doing, dude. I had his skateboard with his amp and his guitar, and I would put it on the skateboard and skate over to his house, to Dave Ron's house, load the shit up there. We would jam for like an hour, and then I would fucking take the shit back really quick and put everything back the way it was.
Dude, so brilliant. I'm listening to this story, and it's so akin to some of my early stories of playing bass. I had a PV keyboard amp combo that I played my Epiphone through. And before I put casters on the bottom to roll it to my friend's house, I would put it on the skateboard and ride it over. And that's just so funny that we have that same story, probably about the same age of around 12 years old. That's how we humped our gear to our friend's house.
Shit, I think it was even like, I don't know if it even was, I was probably 82, because his board was a Sims with a really short trucks on it.
Okay.
Had Sims wheels. I mean, like, you're talking about a skateboard where you can actually do that on. This motherfucker was like a sidewalk surfer, It was probably only about like I don't know, like 5.5 inches wide.
Oh shit! Yeah, no, this was a bigger board. This was definitely a bigger board.
Yeah. So even doing that was a task in itself. But yeah, man, that's what I used to do, and so that's how I cut my teeth playing music. And then when I went to high school, I was friends with a bunch of skateboarders, a bunch of metalheads, punk rockers. And one of the guys I went to high school with, Joe Markey, only guy in high school with a tattoo at the time,
Right.
He's like, dude, I just bought a bunch of gear. I want to sing in a band. He's like, do you guys play? Do you guys play? He's like going up to everybody who looked like freaks and said, do you guys play? Do you guys play? And I said, like, well, I play a little bit. And so we went to his house, his garage. I mean, fuck his poor mom and dad, I swear to God. Like, fuck, man. They didn't know what they were into, but he had everything set up. He had rigs for guitars, had a rig for bass. He had guitars, he had basses, he had drums. He had bought everything. He wanted to sing in a hardcore band so bad that he just went and bought the equipment and tried to find people to play with.
Wow. How the fuck did he afford all that in high school?
I don't fucking know. I think he sold drugs. Okay. I seriously think he sold drugs. Even though he didn't try to sell any to us, but he was definitely on some shit all the time. And I think he sold drugs, and his parents were pretty rich too. So maybe he borrowed some money, sold drugs to get the rest. But this is all, hearsay.
Yeah.
Just
speculation. The legend of how Joe cut his teeth.
Yeah. So I wanted to play guitar, but everybody wanted to play guitar. And so we had 3 guitar players and no bass player. So I said, okay, fuck it, I'm going to play the bass. And when I played the bass for the first time, I was like, this is fucking my instrument. I'm sorry, but I'm a fucking bass player.
I love it, man. Yeah.
From that point on, yeah.
Dude, I mean, once you find it, I'm glad that you got it, because I get to listen to you play now. That's fucking awesome.
But I'm still a guitar player too. So
yeah. So with Lagwagon coming in 2010, what was the call like to bring you in from Dave and everything? I mean, and Joey, and walk me through that a little bit.
Well, at that point, I think Jesse he wasn't feeling it anymore, and he just had a kid, and he wanted to be there for his wife and kid, and I think just the tides brought another, kind of feeling and kind of need and change for him, and so he's just like, I don't want to be in the band anymore. So the guys obviously called on me because I know everybody in the band. It's like, I don't. Excuse me. Sorry. Too much bitch bop.
Yeah, bitch bop's getting you good, then.
I might be talking too much too.
No. That's.
I just want to tell the mixtape guys when I need to work after this, please bear with me.
Just let them know you were on the podcast talking about mixtape, so they should be all good.
Yeah, and you guys should download it. Mixtape.
Everyone go check out Mixtape. Available on the App Store, right?
In the App Store. Mixtape Social Music.
Mixtape Social Music. We'll put a graphic right here for you.
Do it. I'll send you it.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll put links underneath in the description of the YouTube channel. Everything. Well, I'm gonna check this out as soon as we get done with this too.
Sweet, because I think you're gonna like it, man. And I'm not here to pitch my job or or whatever, but I'm just saying, it's like, we're musicians and we're doing this whole thing DIY too. We don't have a marketing team. We're just throwing it out there because we're punk rockers, and it's like, I think probably the first DIY tech company ever.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, no marketing. It sounds like my podcast, but yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Okay, what were we talking about? We keep on going off on these.
Dude, that's what podcasting is about, Joe. This is what we're doing. We're talking about you getting into Lagwagon and where Jesse was and Jesse leaving the band.
Okay, so let me keep this short too. I keep on going off on this.
No. Keep it long, man. You got nothing to do today.
I'll leave these stories. I'll leave the juicy details for you when to hang out at your fucking awesome pad.
All right, man.
I'll probably never leave. I'll probably be sleeping behind the bar the whole time.
And there's a couch right over here too. It's a whole room. It's not just a bar. It's a whole room.
Oh, you asshole.
That wasn't trying to sound braggadocious. I was just...
Well, at least you guys don't have these guys.
I don't have those guys. I'm jealous of that. That's for sure.
And I bet your house wasn't made in 1901 because mine was.
Your house was made in 1901? That's pretty fucking rad.
Well, it's an old Victorian.
Dude, that sounds rad.
Yeah.
I want to see your house. You come see my house.
Well, look at the wallpaper in the parlor doors and stuff.
I see the wallpaper. I just thought you had a kooky sense of humor. I don't know. So, anyways, Lagwagon, Jesse. Let's get it back to it. Give me some of the details there.
All right.
Have another drink.
All right. Water too. It's good to hydrate.
Yeah, you gotta in between. I'll get my water too. I get my water. Even though I'm hydrating with a non-alcoholic IPA right now, but you don't
want to be LL Cool J and keep doing this all the time.
Hey, ladies love it. Apparently, ladies love Cool J.
Maybe that's why they like it, because he's all.
Hey, man, you know what it's insinuating.
Okay, so Jesse, yeah, so he just decided to quit the band, and then those guys called me because I played with everybody at some point or the other. I mean, in different incarnations of RKL, Flip has been in the band.
Okay.
So is Derek Plor, too.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So this is like a big, huge history lesson, I guess, in RKL for you, too. So after RKL broke up the first time in 89, and check this out. When we broke up the first time in 89, we got huge here in the States now, too. Like, we sold out the Reseda Country Club in 1989 when we got back home from Europe. And the night before was the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and they also sold it out.
Wow.
So we sold out the same hall that the fucking Chili Peppers did in 89, and we decided to break up.
That seems like the perfect time.
Of course, you know. Oh, we've reached that level of success. No problem. We got this. Oh, let's go to Heroin Town now.
Yeah. Shit, man. So continue with that history, though. So you mentioned your first breakup. So let's go down that history, and then we'll get back to the Lagwagon shit.
Okay. So the first breakup was then, and there were kind of, so Bomber started getting into drugs, and so was Jason, and everybody else was just kind of trying to hold everything together, and then Bomber and Jason kind of hit heads, and then kind of broke up, and then Bomber formed something else, another band called Slang, and it was kind of like What You Hear on Reactivate. That was not supposed to be an RKL album. That was supposed to be a Slang album. Oh. Technically, Slang got signed by Epitaph, but after we recorded the album, Bomber and Brett Garowitz decided to reform RKL because it had a bigger name and thought it was bigger for success, and put it out as an RKL album.
That's why it sounds so different. I was listening to it. I was like, wow, this isn't the punk rock stuff I was listening to on Rock and Roll Nightmare. I was like, but I enjoyed it for a different reason. I was like I said, it was like early Faith No More or Suicidal. I was like, this is different and cool and more in the alternative realm.
Yeah, and so that was supposed to be a Slang album. So that leads us to the second breakup, which is touring off Reactivate. We go to Europe, and then as RKL, people were expecting something different. And what it was Bomber singing, Dave Ron playing drums, Barry playing guitar, and Chris Rest playing guitar, and me playing bass. So they were just seeing Bomber on stage singing. They were like, where the fuck is Jason? They didn't get it. So instantly, our tour just totally flopped. Completely. And, this is like what, like we broke up in 89 and now we're touring in 92. I mean, some bands don't even come out with an album for way longer than that. Right. You know?
I don't know any bands like that.
So they're not they're expecting the same thing, you know? And they didn't get it. So on that tour, Bomber quit. Well, we also had one of our roadies die on that tour on a heroin overdose too.
Oh, so
that was brutal. But Bomber, after that, he couldn't handle it anymore, quit. So now the whole band's in Barcelona, which was a great time. And that's why it's one of my favorite cities, is because we spent like 2.5 months there.
This was after tour. On that tour. Okay. You broke up and stayed there for 2.5 months, or you just partied after your band broke up, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah, we went to Mallorca for fucking 2.5 weeks. We stayed in Barcelona at squats at people's houses. We just basically burned all of the profit that we made on that tour, just hanging out, partying, and trying to get over the breakup, which is a great way to handle it, I think.
Absolutely. That's a retirement and a half right there. That's fucking beautiful, man. Smart.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably better than probably 5 years of my retirement in those 2.5 months.
I believe it, man. That's especially with all that youth and that money to blow and not a care in the world. I could only, I mean, I'm sure you don't want to go too much detail of what actually happened there. We'll save that for the bar here in person, I guess.
Oh, I can tell you more stories too. But anyways, so everybody knew that we were like in Barcelona. And I got to say that like there's two Southern Europe places that love RKL. It's Spain and Italy.
Awesome.
But Spain is like insane for RKL. Like insane for RKL, which is radical. So we decided that we would fly Jason Sears to Barcelona to play 3 shows there.
Okay.
When we started getting like poor, it started.
You're right. Wait, no. You were running out of money, and you needed to get a couple more bucks to stay in Barcelona.
Exactly. So we're like, let's get Jason over here and let's just do our old set, but this time with Dave Ron playing drums.
Okay.
And so we got him to fly over. His dad paid for his ticket and everything, and we played I think 2 or 3 shows there. And then boom, man, we just went off. We stockpiled some cash. We called Dave Pollock. We're like, book a tour right now. We're fucking doing this. And so he did, like, really quick. And then we ended the tour with Jason. So we started with Bomber with the whole Reactivate lineup, which people didn't like. And then we got Jason back and then just like killed it
just ran
for the rest of the tour.
And was that okay? So that tour goes off really well. What happens next?
We go back home. We start writing together, and this is Sans Bomber, which is a trip because Bomber's always been a part of writing for RKL for like ever, right?
Yeah, you said he's the lion's share writer.
Yeah, man, and he is fucking brilliant. I mean, seriously, like Bomber is like one of those crazy composers like Tchaikovsky or like Beethoven or something, but like with serious mental issues, you know?
Okay. Which we don't know. They probably also had mental issues. They just don't write about those in the books, but you know, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly the same way thing, whatever. I mean, he's like someone who can play every instrument he ever touched and be a virtuoso at it and everything.
Right.
Anyways, so this is our first album writing that we didn't have Bomber. So it was like super kind of weird, you know, but we've been in the band for so long, we just started writing whatever. And this writing session becomes Riches to Rags. And I don't know if you listened to that.
Yes,
album.
I did. Yes, I did. It sounded, I mean, right off the bat, when we're here, we're pissed. I mean, kind of explain it all. And I didn't, like, that explains a lot of the voices changing too. Jason coming back and from the live record and Rock and Roll Nightmare to Riches to Rags brings back that Motorhead influence that I was hearing, or rather that my interpretation of the vocal melodies and rasp to it really reminded me of Lemmy. Right.
And not only that, but I think we explored way more down like the kind of metal rabbit hole.
Yes, absolutely. I do hear a lot more metal on Riches and Rags.
And then we also got, and God, I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the goddamn producer, but I'm sure it's on the album. But he was like the producer for, I believe, one of the East Bay metal bands. The name that comes up first is Testament.
Okay.
So we got the producer from Testament, or one of those like East Bay, like really popular. It wasn't
thrash
Accident.
metal, the thrash metal producers that were of all those bands that were coming out, and yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
And that's who we got to produce our album,
right,
and that's why it has like that crisp, like. I mean, the production on that album is great.
It is,
and it was like fucking like '93 too, and it still holds up today.
Yeah, and it was released on. Again, you released it on Epitaph again with with Brett. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So that album did really well. We went and toured Europe, and then Jason was strung out on heroin. And not only that, but he had a girlfriend at the time that had 2 kids. Sierra was, I think 3. and Cisco was probably like about 5 or something. Well, no. That was one of her kids. Anyways, long story short, he ends up flying her out there, also dope sick, with the kids. So now we're doing a tour, an RKL tour, a gnarly tour, like, where we're just fucking raging with now infants on board and his girlfriend, who's also strung out on heroin.
Jeez. I mean,
can you imagine?
We think we started out early seeing some of this shit, and you got toddlers out there seeing this shit firsthand. I mean, that's kind of brutal, man. Being a father myself now, and wanting to take my 5-year-old son out on the road when we eventually get back out there, it's not the same vibe.
No, it's really not. So apparently people got, fucking pissed off, as they should. And so people wanted to quit. And so they said, Jason, here's your ultimatum. We can keep on doing the tour, but you need to get the kids off. Like, we'll pay for it. Or like, we'll pay for it. You just need to get them off at home. Right. We need to, do our jobs and take this seriously. And so he wouldn't do it. And so we quit the band. That was the second breakup.
Wow. Anyways, wow. I can understand why. I mean, you got strung out. I mean, that seems like a very dysfunctional situation. I mean, when you bring kids involved, I mean, it's all fun and games, really, in my opinion. It's all fun and games till you get kids involved in it, really. I mean, you can, I guess that's just my opinion. I wasn't there firsthand, but I guess that would make sense. Why
when it came, we didn't even know, and he didn't even ask us. So that was cool too.
Yeah, that was
that was pretty killer. The next time you're partying, coming home from a bar, and then you're seeing kids on board, you're like, what the fuck did I do? What kind of trouble did I get into? Yeah. I thought it took 9 months.
Yeah. Did they leave a note with that? Like, do I at least know whose it was? Like, I
mean, the fire station?
Yeah. Shit, man. So that's
the bus isn't even red. Come on.
So that's breakup number 2. Is that the last breakup?
Breakup number 2, and then the third iteration was when I was working for Sony PlayStation, and I thought I had a career. I was like, fuck yeah, I work for Sony. I'm playing video games for a living. I was like totally stoked because I had quit music at that point. I was like, fuck this, I'm done. And I was probably about 25. I'm like, fuck music, because I had been doing it ever since I was 17 to 24. I'm like, this is a career. I'm fucking done. I'm over it. I'm ready for a new one. And so that's when I started working for Sony PlayStation. And then Bomber calls me back, and he's like, dude, we want to get the band back together, dude. Come on. I'll be drumming. We'll get Jason. Dude, it'll be radical. And I was like, nope, not doing it.
Wow.
So the third iteration of it was Derek Plord on drums, Jason Sears on vocals, Chris Rest on guitar, and Chris Flip on guitar. Okay. So that is the third. And Bomber on bass.
I was just going to say, so who played bass and where did Bomber fall in this? Okay, now I'm following.
Yeah, so now it's Bomber on bass, and then that didn't last too long. They did like a short tour, and Bomber was like, Jason was doing really good on the drugs, but Bomber was smoking meth, and he was doing heroin, and so everybody's like, fuck you, Bomber, you're fucking out of here.
Wow.
So I think that's technically the third. And then they took a hiatus. And then they called me back to play bass.
Okay. And when was that? When was that? When was that at?
Okay, let me think. 2001.
Okay.
2001. And then we started touring.
Who was all when you come back to bass? Who's all left in the band?
Everybody else.
Okay.
Except for Bomber.
Okay.
So I get in on bass, and then we start playing, and we didn't put out any recording. Well, we tried to record. Actually, I think we recorded some songs and then made some demos with it. And you can find that, I believe, on a Malt Soda release, like some of our demo songs that we have with Jason. Yeah.
I'll have to try and dig some of those up. I'm interested in that.
I can look it up and I can tell you what's on it. And
Perfect.
there's just so much stuff. It's kind of hard to remember the whole thing.
Right.
But I remember that was a really bad time when Derek Ford was in the band, which was awesome having him, because I feel fortunate to be playing with like a lot of good drummers, but have played with a lot of really good drummers. As far as a bass player is concerned, I consider myself really lucky, because I did 2 projects with Derek, Jaws and RKL.
Right. Okay. Jaws. Yeah. Awesome.
So Derek and I and my girlfriend at the time, Stacy D, and I'm not trying to air dirty laundry. I'm just stating facts.
Right. Right.
So while I was in RKL living with Derek and Stacy, Derek and Stacy D hooked up.
Oh, while you were dating her?
Yeah.
Bummer. Was it a bummer, or were you like, it ain't no fun unless my homies can have some?
Fuck no, it's never cool.
Okay, hey, I just want to make sure.
I'm not one of those Santa Barbara guys that lets that shit fly, or Huntington Beach. I don't know.
Hey, no, I didn't say I let it fly. I was just curious, man. But yeah. different strokes, different folks, man. Let's go.
No, that's fucking cool. That's fucking my chick. Fuck you. People get beat because of that shit.
Yeah, no shit. All right. I'm just helping you paint the picture here. So you're obviously pretty fucking pissed off about this.
I'm still pissed off about it. But anyways, so we kick him out of the band. Mm. And then we get Boz Rivera, who was the last drummer for No Use for a Name, to play drums. And this guy, Boz, is fucking awesome. So then we start touring with this lineup. We're doing pretty good. We're writing shit. And then Jason Sears dies. And then that's the end of everything. And then shortly after, Bomber dies. And that's like the end of everything.
Yeah. That's so unfortunate. What years did they pass? I'm sorry.
Oh shit! I'm sorry if I can't remember exactly.
It's like early 2000s is what we're looking at.
Was it early 2000s? I wanted to say it was probably 2006, 2007.
Okay.
And don't quote me on it, but it's around that time, respectively.
I'm sure someone in the comments down here will fact check us on everything, so we'll be good.
I think the little bio thing that goes with the album says it too.
Covers all that. Okay, cool, perfect.
Yeah, covers all that as well. But that was pretty much it. I mean, until we reformed RKL as not RKL, but the RK Aliens.
Okay.
So we got the last incarnation of the instrumentalists with a friend of ours who sings or sang some of the songs.
Okay, and who was that?
Oh my God! I think this drink is getting to me because now
I love that you don't remember who your singer was.
I do. I just remember his face.
So you're one of the.
I'm not good with names.
I'm just saying. Hey, I mean, we're way too similar, dude. I'm good with faces. I'm terrible with names. So
no, I'm just an asshole. And I'm selfish, and I think that's the reason why people don't like me.
Oh, that's probably the reason why we're getting along so well. So real quick,
it's gonna come to me. It's gonna come to me. Damien.
Okay.
Yeah.
Damien. Okay. And so we covered a lot of the history. It brings us up to here where you guys are releasing the Live in a Dive, which is out now. Everyone go stream it.
Damien Franco. I even remember the
Damien
last
Franco.
name.
That's a good name. How do you forget that name? That's a great name. Damien Franco. It's a great name.
It really is. But I'm so sorry, Damien, if you're watching this. I love you, but
don't worry, he's not.
But he actually came on stage when we played Punk and Drublick and Ventura. When Lagwagon played and sang an RKL song. He sang "Scab on My Brain."
Oh shit!
And
that's a great song, by the way. Great tune. Yeah. That's awesome, man. So we're talking about the history of RKL, and there's a lot of rumors and stuff that I could find on, the great Wikipedia that's out there. But there was one that I found very interesting, and you could debunk right now, or at least tell me a little bit of why it would even come up. But was Josh Brolin, the actor, ever a part of RKL or even a thought of RKL, or was he just like in the punk rock scene in Northern California as well? What can you tell me a little bit about that? Is there any merit to this? Is there any backstory to it, or is it all just, internet bullshit?
That's a good question. And I want to throw this out to Toby Morris because we did a tour with H2O. He asked me the same thing because he knows them really well. He's actually friends with them.
Yeah, he just had him on his One Life to Live podcast. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I want to throw this one out to Toby because I was really drunk one night at the Lagwagon show that we did in Florida. It was fucking a horrible show. So I decided to phone it in, and he asked me about it at that time, and I said, "Fuck Josh Brolin, fuck that ass. He's never in RKL, blah blah blah," like that.
Oh,
so I have to apologize. This is what I think the real story is, and I talked to Chris too, Chris Rest, and there were affiliations back in those days, right? So Josh Brolin and Chris Rest and Jason Sears, they grew up in Montecito, and that's like Echelon, of Santa Barbara. They're fucking, that's where Michael Jackson's fucking stupid kid rape ranches, right?
Yeah.
And that's where Dobra lives and shit, and I mean everybody. So there's, and I think Ronald Reagan or something. Okay. So a lot of rich people, and rightly so, because Josh Brolin comes from Brolin family, a long line of actors. But they all grew up together, So I think the affiliation is that since they were all into punk rock at that time, and they were all kids, and they all served together, and they all knew each other, they probably, played music together at some point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Was it RKL? I mean, I don't fucking know.
Is that a question, more a question for Chris? Because he was there. You joined the band, and like we were just talking about the history.
87.
Yeah, and the band formed earlier than that, like 80. What?
I mean, when Josh Brolin was friends with those guys, I'm sure it was like 81 or 82.
Right.
Or it was even before they actually formed a band with the RKL name in it.
Which is pre-Goonies for all of you people out there too. Just before Goonies.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know, man. Like, would you consider yourself a part of a band that you like kind of fucked around with, but was never in the incarnation of the band? Would you ever say that you were in that band?
Probably not. I wouldn't say I was in it, but I'd probably say, oh, I used to jam with those guys. Something like that. Right.
Apparently, I've seen him do an interview, and he said something totally different. and I could send you the link too.
Please do, because I was just doing research for this chat and research on RKL and the stuff that kind of, I'm just going off of what I'm reading on the internet. So I was curious to ask you about it. It was something that me and our producer and booking agent who helps me do some of the research was very curious about, and we. I want to. This is part of the cool stuff I get to find out is hearing it from the horse's mouth. Some of these stories.
Yeah, man, and I think Chris Rest probably could tell you a lot better than I can. But I mean, being like in the band when it was called RKL, nah, he was never in the band when it was RKL.
Gotcha. But he was around. He was friends with all the dudes. Probably jammed and stuff in the garage.
Exactly. So, I mean, everybody make their call on if they think that he was or if he wasn't. That'd be a fun poll for the podcast.
It's really easy. We're gonna make that a poll this week on Twitter for all you guys watching and listening at home. Go follow us at Drinks with Johnny on Twitter. We'll throw up that poll and we'll see what everyone has to say.
I say not, but
well, we know where Joe's out on it, where he's thinking.
One vote count right here. But I mean, seriously, I've never met him before, but I would think that he's probably one cool dude. I've heard other things from people that have grown up with him, but I've never met him. So,
well, everyone once you get to a point of celebrity status. And you go back to their hometown and there's always going to be haters, right? So, I mean, how much can you really listen to someone who grew up with him that's not friends with him still? They're probably on the outskirts just kind of hating a little bit. I'm sure he's a cool dude. I mean, if you grew up with all your friends and all those guys in the punk rock scene, I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, but most of that if you grow up in that scene, you kind of get humbled over and over enough that you probably, more of a closer to a salt of the earth kind of person. And
I don't want to get into it because I just hate getting into these like conversations about it, and I don't want to talk shit. That's why I told like in this podcast with Toby, I apologize because I shouldn't have spoken drunk about your friend. I seriously think he's a great actor. I love his art, and I think he's probably a really cool dude that I would like to meet someday or whatever, so
maybe jam with,
maybe even jam with. Yeah.
I'd love that too, Josh, by the by.
Maybe he needs to come by the house while you do a podcast with him, and then I can come by and Chris can come by and we could just all jam together.
I mean, sounds like a fucking plan to me. I'm in. I mean, I haven't started watching his new show on Prime. Have you? I've heard great things. It's kind of like it looks like it's more of like a Yellowstone by the billboards, but apparently it's very sci-fi involved in it too. I got to get into it. I'm way behind on it, but have you seen this show yet?
I have not.
Do you stay contemporary with a lot of these shows on the streaming apps now and movies and such?
It's kind of hard to,
Yeah, there's so much out there, right?
Well, especially if you have, like a girlfriend or wife, you want to choose things that you can watch together.
Yeah.
So it's like not necessarily like I like to watch the Mayans and stuff, Sons of Anarchy. She hates that shit because she used to live by Angel's Camp and she lived through all that shit.
Oh.
So she's like,
PTSD and shit while she's watching that. Yeah.
She's like, all the fucking cops around us were corrupt and stuff, like, used to see these guys all the time, so she wasn't and isn't about that type of stuff. So, but that just is an example of like what you can or what you can't watch. I try to spend as much time with the lady as possible. So
yeah, absolutely.
Like watching, similar interests that's kind of quality time.
Right. I hear you on that. I've been married for coming up on 10 years now. I've been with my wife since we were 19 years old.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
So she's been through your whole Avenged Sevenfold journey and everything?
Yep, and she still doesn't give a fuck about that band. I met her when I was 12 years old. She busted my balls.
Go ahead,
she's a great, I love it. I mean, it's the best. She busted my balls. She's been through it all. She's absolutely saved my life a few times. So, I love her. I love her for everything.
Okay, so we're so similar in a lot of different ways. So Kelly hates Lagwagon. She fucking hates Lagwagon. She does not give zero fucks for, or maybe she gives every fuck for Lagwagon. However you put it. Yeah. I guess that's the other way. Well, now, about that saying, I mean, you give zero fucks? Like, wouldn't you give all the fucks for them if you hated it instead of zero fucks?
Depends on how you define fucks.
I'm not talking about the good fuck.
Okay, so it's a bad fuck? Then yeah, your definition would make more sense.
Okay.
But speaking on Lagwagon real quick, I'm a huge Lagwagon fan. When I was in middle school was right when, like, I think I was about to be a freshman in high school when Haas came out. And to this day, it's one of my favorite punk rock records ever put together. And then I know you joined later, obviously. And I've seen you play over at the House of Blues, I believe, here in.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was a show with no effects. I got way too hammered and went behind like the loadout and everything, and I puked in a trash can, and my buddy had to take me home. But let's let's talk about feelings.
Well, since you're talking about Lagwagon,
I love that you transition into that. That's fantastic. Well,
it's Lisa Simpson too. So how cool is that? Oh, and you can see her braces. Hold on.
Yeah. Oh, she's got the yes. Wonderful.
Oh, he comes through.
Even Michael Myers comes back in. That's a great little thing going on right there. So tell me about your experience with Lagwagon and you getting into the band, and then we'll put a bow on this thing.
Okay. So all right. Yeah, we didn't finish this conversation.
No, we're coming back to it. I didn't forget.
Good for you to keep on point, man. You're a good podcaster.
Thank you.
Yeah, for the second podcast I've ever done. That's.
Hey, man, at least that was better than the first. I hope.
Well, the first was Black Dahlia from the Dwarfs, which is another band that I played with.
I know, yeah, you filled in for that with them a few times as well, right?
Yeah, I was even in the Real Mackenzies. I co-produced an album with the Real Mackenzies with Fat Mike.
Shit.
Yeah. Anyways, getting back to Lagwagon.
Let's get back to Lagwagon.
We run out of time. Let's talk.
All aboard the Lagwagon. Let's go.
Yeah. So Jesse quit the band. Those guys got me in, and then we did a tour in 2010, and that was a really fun tour. I mean, I loved it. But Dave Ron and Joey Cape were sober, and me, Chris, and Chris fucking went off the deep end because I was like, oh my God, I'm on a bus tour again. This is fucking awesome. I'm with my bros from RKL, with the guys that I played with. I'm having so much fun. I just got entirely wasted the whole time. Pretty much just fucked. I don't know if I fucked every show, but fucked a lot of shows. Well, I definitely heard about it.
I'm sorry, Joe. Would you pause on fucked there for a second? I thought you were going to go a different direction. I was like, oh, is he about to tell me the touring life there for a second? But you fucked the show to make sure everyone kept listening. Okay, go on, please.
Yeah, I fucked up the show. Like I was just wasted up every night or shows.
Right.
And Dave would let me know about it. I think Joey was just kind of maybe over it. But yeah, that was the tour that we did with No Use for a Name. And then I got kicked out of the band in 2010.
You got kicked out in the same year you joined?
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Thank you.
So how did you get back in the good graces after you, did you sober up for a little bit and come groveling back or what happened here?
I'll tell you the gnarly story, which really kind of sealed the deal later on. But basically, I heard that those guys were coming out with a box set right after that. Mm-hmm. And then they were going to tour off the box set. And then I heard I wasn't going to be a part of it. and then I started calling Chris Rest, and I'm like, what's going on? Why aren't I being called back? And he's like, dude, you were kind of gnarly the last tour, and so we're trying to look for another bass player. And I'm like,
wow,
yeah, it hurt. It hurt a lot. I was like,
I'm sure. I'm trying to put myself in those shoes, and like that'd be a slap across the face, slap across the head, whatever you want to call it, of like kind of a wake-up call.
I deserve the slap. I deserve probably punches, but really it just came down to me, like, wait, how long have I been doing this? And at this point, like, I'm that unprofessional, really was a wake-up call. And I was like, you know what? I mean, whatever happens, I have to apologize. And so I sent Joey a really heartening email and said, I totally understand the reason why you don't want me back in the band. And I apologize. I should have been more professional. This has been a wake-up call and a learning experience for me. And whatever happens, happens. I just want you to know that there's no hard feelings and we're still friends. And I'm totally cool with whatever you guys want to do. Well, own up to it or whatever.
Right. And
then they tried out, I guess, a couple of bass players, and they didn't work out. And I don't know what on the back end, but I got called back.
Okay. And then, and how quickly was that after? So like 2010, you joined, 2010, you get kicked out. Is it still 2010 when you come back in, or is it now 2011?
2011.
Okay. And obviously you've been there since now.
Yeah.
Everything's been working out. You guys have been playing a lot of shows, album releases. I talked to Joey. We were mostly talking about Bad Astronaut when I had him on the show.
Great band.
Great band. Another one that like I just went under my radar. I feel so bad sometimes when I have these guests on. I'm like I don't know this project.
That's why you need to download Mixtape, and I can make mixtapes of it and send it to you.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like how do we discover music, like for guys like myself who aren't on TikTok and social media. How do I discover music these days?
I can make a playlist of it and send it over to you through Mixtape, and you can follow me and you can see all my mixtapes. And if you don't recognize a band and it's coming from me, then maybe you should listen to it.
I'm in. I'm downloading this app as soon as we're done with this conversation. But
and then as soon as you do, if you're going to shut it off or whatever, let me text you my number, or we'll exchange numbers. And
absolutely, we'll exchange numbers through Vanessa. I'll send my number to Vanessa, and we'll get.
There you go. That's a good way to do it too. Unless you just want to say it right now for all your fans.
Yeah, I could give you. Let me look up my phone. I could give you my producer's number, and we could do that. No, man, Joe, it's been so great. I mean, we could continue this conversation for probably another 10 years, to be honest, and I hope we do, with or without the cameras. Lastly, I just want to ask what you got coming up here in the next few months here. I know you guys got the release for the RKL, Live in a Dive. What's new for Lagwagon? What's on the horizon? What do you got that's keeping you busy for the next few months?
We have a tour. We have a European tour starting on the let's see, what is it? I believe it's the 5th or the 7th in Zagreb.
Okay.
Croatia. But yeah, we're
I've
going.
never been to Croatia.
You've never been to Croatia?
I've never been to Croatia.
Holy fuck, man. It's one of the most beautiful places on this earth.
Man.
But yeah, we're going to be playing on the 7th, I believe, in Zagreb. And that's when we start a European tour. Then we're going to be doing clubs and festivals. And then we're taking a short break. And then we're coming back for like a full festival tour in Europe again in August. Awesome. And it's going to go through until I believe early September.
And do you have any? Is there anything on the books for Lagwagon doing some stuff in the States anytime soon?
I believe we're going to try to put something together for. I think it's September.
Okay. Well, yeah. I think I'll still be home in September, so hopefully in SoCal I get to come out and catch a show and have some fun and hang with you.
Yeah, for sure, man. Let's do it.
All right, brother. Well, thank you so much for the time again. Everybody go follow a little bit more of Joe. And
and I just made an Instagram account.
Oh, you have an Instagram account now. Let's send everyone there. What's your Instagram account?
I only have 2 posts, but trust me, it'll get better and juicier. But it's Lil Joe, LILJOE, RKL Wagon.
RKL Wagon. Okay, well we'll put it right here for everybody and everyone listening. You got the thing. So go follow Lil Joe for some more. And again, want to thank you for the time, brother. We'll exchange each other's numbers and we'll do this again sometime soon.
For sure. Thank you so much, man. It's been a pleasure, and let's do this again.
Absolutely, man. Have a good rest of your
everybody.
Day. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of Drinks with Johnny. That conversation went long, and I loved every minute of it. It didn't feel long. I only know that because I'm looking at the numbers over here. It was an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, Joe. Thank you guys for listening, for watching, and enjoying this episode, enjoying this journey with me through this podcast, getting to meet these incredible musicians and other people in the entertainment industry. Again, discovering through doing this has been so much fun for me. So I thank you guys. And as always, till next time, cheers.